Katie Grimes built a $500,000 international coaching business by staying in go mode around the clock until a $90,000 stress-related health crisis forced her to rebuild everything that she thought she knew about running a company. Today, she helps ambitious business owners build companies that run on structure instead of adrenaline. Welcome to the CEO Spotlight. I'm your host, Nancy Margrit. This show is where we sit down with founders and business owners who are building smarter, more sustainable companies. We talk strategy, systems, leadership, and the real decisions behind growth, not just the highlight reel. Today, my guest is Katie Grimes. Katie left corporate America in 2019 to launch her own coaching business. She grew it to over $500,000, an international brand, by 2023, and then made the hard call to rebuild her entire operation after her old way of working nearly cost her her health. Now, through the Calm CEO experience and her private coaching practice, she helps business owners build companies that run on systems instead of sheer force of will. Katie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. And I always say to people, you don't have to be calm to join my group, the Calm CEO. I will teach you how to do that. And, I just really appreciate that we're having this conversation because I think that there are so many people out there. The highlight reel is real. Mm-hmm. And they're just telling like, oh my gosh, it's so impressive, international. And it's like, yeah, but if you really knew the story behind building it, I think it would make us all feel like we're doing it right, so to speak.
Yeah.
The ups and the downs and the times that we're just like completely feel like we're like, should we go back to corporate or should we just do something different? Because it's not for the faint of heart.
No, it is not. So I'd love to start out where most founders' stories actually start, like before the business existed. So you launched your coaching business in 2019 after leaving corporate. What was the moment you knew that you were done building someone else's vision and you were ready to build your own?
Yeah. So it happened the year before.
Okay.
So, excuse me, it happened in 2017. I was actually journaling. And I have the journal still. And it says, I want to build my own coaching business, or I want to start my own business in 2018. And then a year later, I was rereading the notes and I scratched it out and I wrote 2019. And I just found myself at that time feeling like I'm working, 50, 60 hours a week for someone else. I was at the time working in commercial real estate in Boston. I was networking a lot. I had a great reputation. I was making my sales quotas, but there was not really a lot of grace for the times when I was tired and I wanted to sleep in or I wanted to work from home and I had to give somebody an explanation of why that might be. Behind the scenes, starting in 2015, I had gotten into recovery for codependency and just understanding that I had grown up with alcoholism in my family and I had grown up believing that people should say one thing and do another. And so when you're operating from that lens, it brings the wrong jobs, it brings the wrong people, it brings the wrong romantic relationships into your life. And at that time, I decided, I was like, okay, I need to focus on me and my health and my well-being and getting sober from this type of behavior. And it just so happened that I stopped drinking around the same time. And I was like, okay, I want to see if with there being alcoholism in my family, is that actually what is causing me to go into these toxic jobs where I'm the fixer or the friendships where I'm the fixer or even the relationships for that matter? And what I created at that time was a group with another woman called WIRE, Wellness for Women in Real Estate. And essentially it was something that had never existed before, which was a sober workout event where it was also networking in the Boston area. And it was women only, which was really incredible. And then when I said to my co-founder at that time, I was like, I really want to make sure that we're talking wellness. We're not just talking workout. This isn't workout for women in real estate. This is wellness. And so there's these emotional aspects and these conversations about money and emotions and the fears that we have and the doubts and the insecurities. I'd like to make sure that we're talking about that. And they were well received, but I think it wasn't well received by the corporation I worked for. Despite the fact that they were like, this is amazing, this is so awesome, they were sabotaging in some ways. And so they let me go. They actually let me go in 2019. They let me go from my corporate job. And, they got me on a technicality, something that other people had done before. And I remember afterwards feeling like, okay, did I do something wrong? Or am I ever going to work again in this industry or in Boston? You feel such shame. And I started immediately reaching out to my connections to try to get another job. And as I was doing that and going on interviews, I realized I don't want to work for anybody else. I remember hearing from the commercial real estate brokers, if you hustle and you grind, you can make $350,000. And I thought to myself, I can make $350,000 in a year at some point, and I don't have to hustle or grind. I could probably sleep in if I wanted to. And that was sort of this like pivotal moment where I then started to change those conversations from who do you know that I can interview with to who do you know that I can have a conversation with within your organization who's a young leader who's finding themselves at this crossroads of like kind of being unhappy and you'd really like to keep them on within your organization. And that's sort of where the business actually ended up starting to pivot as coaching, but I didn't know what to call it at that time.
That's a very cool story and very inspiring. So walk me through what it actually took to scale that business internationally. Like what was working?
So you got to remember back in 2019, the big names in any industry didn't have, like even Brene Brown did not have a podcast. Podcasts were like not a thing back then. And I have the gift of gab and communication that comes really naturally to me in my human design. And I decided to start the podcast. So it started by starting the podcast and, figuring out how do you even start a podcast and going on Apple and Spotify. And it wasn't until somebody from, I believe she was from Sweden, reached out that I had this moment where we got on a consultation. And while she didn't sign up for coaching at that time because she couldn't afford it, but it hit me. I'm like, oh, the business is international. And I actually started crying on the phone with her because I realized like, oh, wow, wait a minute. Even if she doesn't buy, the business is still international because now I have a platform that crossed over the Atlantic Ocean to her over something I said in episode 5 of my podcast called Anything for Love. And I think what it took to scale, I think it started with foot traffic. Like I literally just was like hitting the streets, if you would. Like I was calling friends, I was updating family members, I was meeting up with people. I was kicking it old school the way that I knew how to network and the new way I knew how to build a business in commercial real estate. You meet with people face to face. So I just started meeting with people. Hey, what are you up to? And I wasn't trying to do it from a place of let me grow the business. It wasn't just all about me. The one thing that I always felt was really true about networking and sales and business development is it's about them. You're not meeting with me because you want to hear about my company. We're meeting together because we like each other. And I'm going to also ask you things about how things are going. And I think about who I can make an introduction to you, et cetera. But what ended up happening is I eventually decided, I'm like, oh, I'm going to start a course called, I think at the time I called it Live the Life You Love. And it was all about taking a break from dating to just focus on yourself. That course ended up becoming called Let Love In. And it ended up being what I was best known for in my dating and relationship coaching business. And it was helping women trust their intuition and set and keep better boundaries and speak up for what they need without feeling needy. And then that ended up translating to a lot of like 90% of my clients at one point were all business owners. And then they became business coaching clients. So without actually having advertised it, 75% of my revenue was coming in from business coaching. And that's when I decided to make the pivot because I actually liked it more. I found it challenging, and I'm sure anyone can relate to this. When you grow and you're doing your healing work, you're no longer talking to that ideal client anymore. And so I found it really challenging. Like I brought these women in through Let Love In who were not dating. Then they went on to date, then get married, then have kids, then move it. Like they were taking all these steps. So I wasn't talking to them anymore. And that made me sad because I had this like attachment to them. And so I felt pretty confused. I'm like, who am I talking to anymore? Because I'm not talking to that girl who's not dating anymore. I'm still talking to the woman who's been married now for a year. She's expecting to have a baby because she went through my course.
Right.
And so I think at that point, I just decided, I was like, you know what? I think it's pretty easy. It feels easier, I should say, to talk to the one person who has started a business. They're a year plus in, they're wanting to grow it, and all of the things that can happen as a result of that is what I can help guide and direct them to. I can introduce them to people like yourself if they're looking to grow and scale in a particular way or things like that.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And I love that you take kind of that dual approach because I think so many people are like, it's all online or it's all warm network. So taking that approach of like, let's just think outside the box and we can network in different ways. And I also feel like for me, especially, it's like, it fulfills a different need. I need some of that in-person connection when I'm out networking, on top of, the virtual connections. So I like that you made
Yeah,
that distinction.
I noticed I had moved to Portsmouth, New Hampshire about 6 years ago. And I've noticed over the last year and a half, that most of my clients have come from the in-person networking events that I've gone to, whether that's through the wedding business owners. Like, so I'm about 90, right now, about 90% of my clients are wedding business owners.
Mm.
And I kind of carved out this like unique niche for myself in this area, which is starting to spread again internationally. But I think what I've observed is like the more in person I do, the more people can feel this energy, which is I authentically care about you. I do. I care about you as a person. I want to see you thrive. I'm not just trying to sell you on coaching. Like I'm actually trying to help you. Like one of my clients, we just got off the phone. We stopped coaching. We've been 3 months coaching now. She's getting married next month. And I said, what is the thing that you're like most proud of during our 3 months? She's like, Katie, I haven't had a UTI in 3 months. And I remembered it. It started on our consultation. I said, hey, I noticed you have pain like during sex, because that's actually one of my questions. And she was like, yeah, I get UTIs all the time. And I was like, wait, I used to as well. I'm not a doctor, like, but can I share with you a couple of things that I've tried? And so I gave her a bunch of supplements. I asked her recently, I'm like, did you take the supplement? She's like, no, I haven't. You encouraged me to hydrate more and drink Element, the electrolytes. She goes, and then you also encouraged me to use lubricant while having sex, which I never felt like I really needed to. And yeah, I haven't had a UTI in 3 months.
That's
It's like,
awesome.
it's incredible. So it's like,
Yeah.
that's why people are often like, are you a life coach or a business coach? And I'm like, I'm both, because I'm a big believer what's going on in your business affecting personal and vice versa. If you're getting UTIs all the time, you can't
You
show
can't
up
show up.
and go to
Yeah.
an networking event, or, and I think, she was somebody I met at a in-person networking event. And
Hmm.
I think when I think back to moving to Portsmouth, the closest connections I think I've felt have really been over the last year, because I have joined like Women's Business League, or I have gone to make an effort with these wedding business owners who are hosting events for those in the industry, and really just going and genuinely asking them questions about themselves, but not from a place of trying to sell them. Like if they come and coach with me, great. It just so happened this girl with the UTI, she and I just sat next to each other at dinner one night. That's
Yeah.
how it ended up coming.
No, I think that's beautiful. And you really do have to, I think if you're genuinely concerned, or genuinely interested in helping someone, you have to operate out of a state of curiosity. Like it has to begin there, and asking
Yeah.
those questions is
Yeah.
the only approach to take if you actually want to help someone. And I think that's where you can see a distinction between someone who's trying to sell and someone who wants to help. It's like, okay, are
It's
they
so
even
true.
asking questions, or are they just like spewing their offer at me? Like,
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like, are they just trying to sell me on the thing they want me to buy from them? Or do they genuinely care that, like, I genuinely care. Are you home and present with your kids? Do you want to be home and present with your kids? That's what I would like to help you accomplish. It's like, because then you're going to have secure babies, and they're going to grow
Yeah.
up to be incredible adults. And like,
That's what
it's
it's
just like
about.
the
Yeah.
ripple effect.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%. So you talked just now a little bit about some kind of, you bring in some health aspects.
Yeah, I do.
Is that so? You've opened up previously about a $90,000 stress-induced health crisis that changed your life, and then subsequently how it changed how you built your business. So what did that expose to you about the way that founders are kind of taught to grow, and maybe should be trying something different? And then how does that affect you in terms of incorporating some of those health strategies in what you do?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of business owners can relate to this of, I was taught to hustle, grind, push through, force. And to, I was the kind of woman that, you run in from the grocery store, you've got all the bags in your hands. You're not taking multiple trips, right? It's like,
Yeah.
I kind of operated the same place from my business. And I remember when I was having these symptoms like bloating, weight gain, not sleeping great, and just like was going to the bathroom a lot and just couldn't figure out like, why am I why is it hard to leave the house until 1 o'clock? Like, right. Just these little symptoms that I was like, I think so many of us, we just sort of push through and are like, oh, it's just normal to like either not go to the bathroom every day, or it's normal to go all the time. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, that should have been my first sign that, hey, I need to go get help. And so when I eventually got to a place of just such extreme fatigue, I ended up reaching out for help. And I remember my functional nutritionist, and I stress functional because I really believe that this type of, you know, registered dietitian, she was able to tell me like, this is exactly what's going on, which was, Katie, you're stressed. And I was like, I don't feel stressed. And she's like, yes, that's because you've reached a level of tolerance of that stress.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not until we add on just a little bit more that you come crumbling down and you're like crying and, you're hiring me now, right? So what we want to do is we want to do things like breath work. We want to have you just lay down in the middle of the day. We want to have you go for a walk or get sun in your eyes. And I was like, I ain't got time for that. Well, that should have been my first inclination right there, that I am stressed. Like if I don't have time to go walk outside for a few minutes and get sunlight in my eyes or lay down on the floor for 30 seconds just to recalibrate my nervous system, well, chances are I am actually stressed. And I think what this did was it didn't really click for a couple of years. Like, sure, I hired her and I healed the SIBO, the C. diff, and all the other ifs that were going on in my body, the H. pylori, everything. That healed. But what didn't was my routine. I still was kind of pushing through and forcing. And then it wasn't until an old client had reached out to me who was she was an NP, nurse practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
And she had said, I'm going to teach you about regulating the nervous system because I think this is so crucial for your clients that are coming in. And when she started to teach me it, she taught it to me in such a way that was very unique and very different than what I had previously heard. Despite lots of my practitioners talking about this for years, something in the way she described it just clicked for me. And I was able to be like, so when I'm in fight or flight, this is when I walk into a room and I have no idea why I was just in there. Okay. Or when I'm in fight or flight, I'm going to say things like, I'm just going to push through or force. Okay. When I'm in freeze or fawn, I'm going to say things like, I'm overwhelmed and stuck. And those are the times I'm going to sit in front of my desk and I'm not going to know exactly what I should be doing and be very confused, even though the list is literally right in front of me and I can't make that decision. Right. So when I started to learn that, it made me realize like, okay, one, I need to take conscious breaks throughout my day. Not only set my day up in the morning and the evening in a way that makes me feel calm and serene, but to do it throughout the day as well. I'll be honest, I'm still working on it. It's not an everyday thing that's perfect. Today, I reached for my phone and immediately opened Facebook and Instagram, and I was like, oh, that's right. We don't do that anymore. Okay. we take an hour before and I checked in with myself. Are you hungry? Do you need a meditation? And I did it right before this call. I instantly kind of checked in with myself and was like, wow, my energy feels really low. I'm going to go lay down for 15 minutes. I'm going to do a breath work exercise for 8 of those 15. I'm going to open up my cervical spine and just kind of get things moving and grooving here on this posture pump thing that I have. And then I'm going to do some nervous system regulation activation. I was done in 15 minutes. I had way more energy. And I was really clear. I had like a half hour before this call where I could just kind of get some things done that I need to get done. And it was like a little bit more chill as opposed to like old Katie would have been like pushing through and hungry and not filled her water bottle and things like that,
Yeah. Yeah. No, those are great. I think it's so important to create, like, for me, a routine helps me a lot. Like having specific, like I have a specific routine. I get up and I like drink my coffee and do my meditation and like do some manifesting and then get ready for the day and clear my head and do my Duolingo. Like I have a certain like routine that I do. But I love that you're taking an approach of your routine as checking in and saying, what do you need? Like not, I'm going to tell you what you need, but what do you need today, right now, in this moment? What do you need?
Yeah, it's a different approach. I'm glad you shared that about the consistency and structure because I think there's people listening are either one or two of us, right? Like they either love the consistency and routine. I think I love consistency and routine as well. But I find for me that every day is so different. Like some days I don't sleep really well. So by me pushing through and the first thing I do, let's say if it was like a workout or like if it was like going outside and going for a walk, I'm like, does that feel best? And sometimes it really is that inner dialogue of like, if I go and do this and it doesn't feel good, I can do something else, right? Like, but sometimes what will happen is we'll just barter with ourselves and then not do the thing. So I've been trying to do a mix of both for myself, where each day I sort of check in and be like multiple times throughout the day, but even in the morning of like, what do you need right now? Like what feels good? Because I think I was always as a child just told what to do. As most of us are, right? And so we're not allowed to kind of tap into our own intuition. We're just told by somebody else that like, you should go and visualize your day. And it's like, but sometimes my brain doesn't want to visualize about the future because she's hungry right now. Okay?
Yes, because she needs food right now.
She needs food right now.
Yeah, no, I think that's great because I definitely, there have been times, because after I do that, I then go for a walk outside and run at least. I try not to go 2 days without running. So, but I think there are days where I should like maybe check in and be like, maybe today's not a good day for a run or even a walk. Like sometimes you, like you said, you just don't sleep well and you just need more rest and recuperation. And maybe we walk later in the day if it feels right.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I've taught a lot of my clients, which says it reduces the shame, is about cycle syncing and knowing that like as you are heading into luteal, into your week of your period, that your energy is starting to dwindle because it's actually trying to, do what it does every 28 days or so. And so as a result of that, I think what it's done for me has been like, does running feel good right now or does stretching feel even better? And it's like, ooh, stretching would feel really good. And then it's like, okay, so after I stretch, do I now want to run? It's like, no, but I would walk, like, right? Because again, I watched this Instagram reel and I posted it the other day and a client messaged me and she said, I literally stopped what we were doing and I showed my boyfriend and it was a video of a woman going to deadlift. I think she had like 60 pounds on her or something. And she said, I don't know if I can do it. And he said, you can do it. But he didn't know where she was with her cycle. And she said, I don't know if I can do it. And he goes, babe, you do this all the time. You can do this. And then he said, wait, where are you on your cycle? And she said, I'm about to get my period in 2 days. And so when she collapsed after falling, because she hit her knees and she came back up, she said, man, I should be able to do this. And he said, no, you shouldn't. Your body is using all of its resources to get you to have your period. So you lifting 60 pounds, no wonder why you were like, and mind you, mindset coaches might say, well, she already committed to the fact that she wasn't going to do it. And it's like, no, I think that was intuition. I think her intuition was like, you're giving your body so much time and attention towards the resources of having your period to go and lift all this really heavy weight right now is not going to feel supportive, but maybe 40 pounds would. Or maybe not lifting this amount on your back right now would feel good at all.
Right? Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's a great story because it is true. It's like so much changes. And I feel like we're almost taught through society just to power through and, oh, you can do anything, which is true to a point. But it's also like you also have to be, aware of where you are when you do certain things. I mean, like I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro into my period. So like you can do things, but is it ideal? And should you push yourself to do it on an everyday basis? Maybe not. Maybe you should check in and not do everything all the time, all at once.
Yeah.
Then about the Calm CEO experience, what are you actually rebuilding with a client when they come to you?
Yeah. So within the Calm CEO experience, I came up with this name because I really wanted people to understand that like, you don't have to be calm in order to run your business. But I think what we're all craving is this sort of peace that I know that I'm doing the right thing. I'm not thinking about work all the time. I can enjoy my time off. And so there's kind of 4 categories we look at. One is time management. The second is getting more energy. The third is messaging and marketing, right? Because that's what we need in order to keep the doors open. And then money. So what do you do when you manage the money? How do you manifest the money? How do you use your mindset to get more money? And these 4 topics were all built off of the $90,000 gut infection and going into debt, overpaying that because I then had an accident all but a year later, which caused another $60,000 to come on top of it. I remember feeling like, Jesus, I'm a business coach and I can't pay for these things. And I remember my financial coach was like, Katie, the business is 70% profitable. You make over 6 figures every year. But how could you, in our economy the way that it is, and you have a 30% interest rate on these cards? Like, of course, you feel like you can't get ahead, right? And so the Calm CEO is really built off of when there's highs and there's lows. How am I able to take better care of myself? Because there are going to be times where the business dips. Well, I was making that mean something about me. There's times where when the business dips, all I do is focus on making more money. But anytime I focus on being of service to other people, doing things like a podcast interview, showing up on social media, and just like really spilling my truth, I think what happens is it normalizes the ups and downs. And then I always say to people when they join the Calm CEO, I'm like, my job is to confidently teach you how to run a business. Like many of them did not go to school for business. I did. However, even though I did, there were a ton of things that I spent money on that I didn't need to. There were mistakes I made or people I hired that I necessarily wouldn't do again.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I made the pivot from relationship coaching over to business, I said, my job is to teach you how to save you more time, tears, and money, because I don't want you to have to go through what I went through in order to get the kind of peace and the calmness that you're looking for so that you can enjoy your life. I said to you, I'm like, I sold everything I owned and I'm on a 4-month trip in Europe. And that came with a lot of sacrifice, but that also came with selling my things and, having to financially make quite a few decisions that I didn't really want to make. But I think with the Calm CEO, I just want people to feel in community with other business owners. Cause I think oftentimes, as you have experienced yourself, I'm sure, like business ownership can feel really lonely. And I think when they sit across the room from each other, they're able to be like, oh my God, wait, I'm not the only one who's struggling to get this thing out the door that I said I would do for the last 2 weeks. Like procrastination is really common. But it's understanding, what are you procrastinating on? It's like, why is there, what I like to do with coaching is I like to dig deeper and go, is it because that thing doesn't need to get done? Or is it that something else is taking a priority? Or do we need to hire out for it? And then when we start to ask those questions, it then gives them the pause to be like, oh yeah, you're right. I should just hire the website designer. It's like, yeah, you got the cash. I can see it. I mean, I have window into their finances. So I'm like,
Right.
if you got the cash, let's go. Right.
Yeah. Very cool. So you offer both private and then one-to-one, or private one-to-one coaching, and then you also offer a group experience. So how do you decide which business owner needs the one-to-one support versus the group container?
I think generally it comes down to their preference. So when they fill out an application to coach, they will be asked, do you want one-on-one? Do you want group? Or do you want both? When somebody comes to private coach with me, they automatically get an introduction into the Calm CEO. So they're allowed to come into the group. And I find that people who actively participate as a one-on-one client in the Calm CEO have a better experience. And not only better, but I mean, they are procrastinating less, they feel less overwhelmed, less anxious, like their symptoms drastically reduced, they're having more sex, like they are, because they're in community with other people. And so I think when you kind of put yourself in that realm. And then I also have a course called Better Work-Life Balance, which somebody privately gets access to. So I think it comes down to their personality. I was always somebody that I don't want to be a part of a group. I actually like private coaching, but generally that's because there's one specific issue I'm getting coaching on and I just want to be all in it. And I don't want to have to feel like I need to be there for anybody else, if that makes sense. But when I'm group coaching, that's different. When I'm the leader of the coaching, I'm like loving it and it's so different, right? So I generally say to them, like, based off your personality, what would make the most sense? And also it comes down to their finances. Like, are they in a place where they can afford private coaching where it's all in? And I always joke, I'm like all up in your business. I'm like texting you on the side being like, okay, how did last night's conversation with your husband go? Or like, or is it in the Calm CEO where their team members are doing that for them, and I'm chiming in periodically being like, okay, when we're on next week's call, let's dive into steps 1, 2, and 3. And they're like, great. Okay, cool. See you on Tuesday.
Right. Very cool. Okay. So I would imagine that people arrive with some kind of story that they've already told themselves about what's wrong. What is the most common misconception a business owner has about their own business when they first start working with you?
I think the most common misconception that a business owner has is that they need to get better at time management. Every single client I have ever worked with in terms of business coaching has come in and been like, I need to get better at managing my time. What they don't realize is actually they need to get better at managing their energy and their boundaries. So as women, we're often carrying the weight of a world on our shoulders. So if they're married, they've got kids, they're thinking about them and they're trying to make sure that they're okay all the time. And they're doing the same with the clients. So that's just they're just putting rocks in their knapsack. It's just weighing them down, right? So I teach them not only how do you give those rocks to maybe somebody else, but then also how can you do these somatic practices and little gentle exercises that will act like breath work, like I said, that will give you more energy but won't take a lot of time, so that you have enough energy to then be able to, without brain fog, confidently be like, okay, I today said that I would get that social media post out, but I also have to write the newsletter. And Katie reminded me that though I do both of those tasks, try not to do them on the same one right after the other, because they're two totally different types of brain that are working on this. One's recording and editing, and the other is writing captions, and the other is writing a newsletter. It's like, oh, okay, I said that I would record the video today, but tomorrow I'm going to write the caption. And when I write the caption, I'm already going to be ready to do the newsletter because I'm writing. And so they're now having these micro moments where they kind of pause and allow themselves to say, this doesn't all need to get done in one day. I can actually be really strategic about my brain functions best by doing newsletter writing and caption writing all on one day. And it doesn't need to be an all day admin day thing. It can be like I carved out 45 minutes and I set a timer and I got done what I could, kind of thing. That's generally what I see as the biggest. And they also will say I need to be better at being more consistent within my routines, which again has to do with time management, but it actually has to do with energy and them not understanding that we cycle every 28 days and that every day is going to feel a little bit different. So instead of pushing through and forcing and making themselves work harder, which is just depleting their energy, it's now getting more creative. The quick example, Nancy, is client came to me and was like, we have our calls on Calm CEO from 1 to 2:30 on Tuesdays. I need to leave at 2:45 to pick up my children, but I have all of these great aha moments after the call, and I want to get like so much shit done for work after the call, but I then can't because then I need to be with them for 4 hours, and then I need to like go to bed, but I then will work, and it's chaotic. And so I was like, well, can I pose a couple of suggestions for you? And she was like, sure. I was like, talk to me about mom and dad. Yeah, no, not an option. I was like, okay, cool. Meaning, can your parents help you?
Yeah.
Nope, not an option. I go, okay, cool. Are there any moms or dads that you trust who are also got their kids in pre-K, who could also use an extra day? And she was like, I can think of two. I was like, why don't you guys just swap? They pick up on Tuesdays, you pick the kids up on Thursdays. She was like, Katie, this is genius. Like, I can't believe I didn't think of it. And I joke, I'm like, that's why you pay me the big bucks. Cause it's like, sometimes we're just so in it that we can't recall that like there's actually other things we can do that will help us get more time back.
That's so smart. Yeah. Sometimes it takes somebody that has that outside perspective and can really look in and say, hey, let's think outside the box and come up with some solutions that are really going to help move the needle for you without feeling like you're moving a mountain to do it.
Yeah, because now it's not a time management issue. It's actually an energy issue. She was like, she was stopping what she was doing. Her energy was high and she had to stop, switch brains, go get the kids, now be in play mode, now be in mom mode. And it's like, that's not a time management issue. It feels like a time management issue. It's an energy issue. But if I can get you more time back, you can keep the energy going and get the things done that you wanted to get done and still be present for the kids when they get dropped off.
Right. I love that. And I also love the working in 45-minute blocks. I've just recently implemented that, and that has helped me a lot, being like a little more strategic and taking breaks and giving myself like a mental cleanse too between types of tasks. So I like that advice. That's really great. So let's talk a little bit about the operational side of the business, because that's where a lot of founders actually get stuck. That's kind of where my business is, on the operational side, really helping take away the time that you're putting into your business so that you can be more present with clients. So you've rebuilt your own backend so clients can sign up, pay, and get onboarded without being online. What did you actually change?
Yeah. So one, I got a software systems that allow for those things to happen, but let me back it up. I hired someone to set it up. I'm not tech. I'm not a specialist in tech. And when I hired a coach and that coach had recommended, hey, your client inquiry process needs some support, right? We need to create a workflow so that when a client signs up, these are the 3 to 4 emails that they're going to get. But not only that, in a month's time, we're going to send them a progress report. And then from there, in 3 months' time, we're going to send them another progress report, right? Like, there were certain things in my client experience that I wanted my clients to experience, but I didn't want to have to remember that I had to send to them. So when I hired the business coach and she told me that, I then hired a teammate. That teammate set it up for me. And at first we used one software system that was pretty sophisticated, Dubsado. I found myself just realizing I don't get that many client inquiries to troubleshoot the cost, so to speak. And I thought, okay, there's other ways that we can do this. So I ended up hiring an assistant because when the assistant comes and she's doing let me set up the waiver and let me have them sign the agreement and then send them the payment link, and then they automatically get the workflow, it's actually costs us less because she's multitasking and doing other things. So I kind of felt like I was getting more bang for my buck, so to speak. But there are some clients that I have who Dubsado is a perfect example of a software system that they absolutely need, because they are getting sometimes 5 to 10 inquiries a week or day that would just make their life so much easier. And then something like a Dubsado for my wedding business owners also has scheduled reminders. Send that proposal to them or send the mock-up to them, and so they can use it more like a project management tool. I feel like though that's been really instrumental whenever I have a client come in, especially like a wedding business owner or somebody who does consults and then there's next steps. It's the first thing we do is we're looking at the client inquiry process just to make it so much easier on the business owner and the client. I mean, the client's going to have the best experience because they know what's coming.
Yeah.
So to speak.
Yeah, no, it's so beneficial to have something set up where you're creating that standard operating procedure in such a way that you don't have to be in it for it to happen. So you're setting a trigger, or even they're setting a trigger, and it just does it automatically. It takes so much weight off of the founder operator in their business.
Yeah. And for group courses or even for our digital products, everything is automated. There is no touching from me, because it's they can sign the agreement right there with a check of a box. They then will pay, they'll get the first email, they'll get access to the course. Yep. So, it's they're perfectly set up. There's only one physical thing I need to do or have the admin do, which is put them into the group message, which is on Instagram. And that takes all of 2 seconds, Yeah. We haven't gotten that sophisticated with Instagram yet that we can add group members without having to do it ourselves. But for the most part, it's taking 100% of the manual work that we do and ideally bringing it to 80, all automated.
Yep. That's the way to go, 100%. It's the only way you can be truly present for your one-to-one clients and your group clients, is to have some of that administrative stuff lifted off of your shoulders, or that rock taken out of your knapsack.
Yeah. And even I would go as far as to say, even to be more present with your family or your friends, right? Yeah. It's just to be I know that I'm getting paid ahead of doing the work. And that's a big one that I see actually sometimes gets missed from a lot of clients. They'll invoice after, and it's the quickest solution you can do is get paid first and then be able to offer the product or their service. But I think when you do that, it creates a sense of peace, not only for yourself, but also the customer. And then you can just go and enjoy your life while you're getting paid to share your gifts.
Okay, so there's often a real bottleneck holding a business back that has nothing to do with marketing or sales. In your experience, what is the real bottleneck when a founder feels maxed out, but the business is still not growing?
I think it's their own beliefs. You could even go as far as to say it's their own limitations, if you would. I think that for me, a great example. So I worked with these NICU nurses. Right. So they were nurses who were helping newborns go to sleep while their parents could sleep. Okay. And so they'd go into the home. And I remember when they coached with me maybe 6 months into owning the business. And they said, we don't know what we're doing. I mean, we know what we're doing when it comes to the NICU nurses and caring for children. We do not know what it comes down to when it comes to building the business. And so I said, well, walk me through your process. They were like, okay, well, first we print out our legal agreement. I'm like, awesome. You have a legal agreement. That's great. And then they were like, so we print it out. And I was like, so no, we electronically send it going forward, and they had made a comment. They were like, I guess we're just so used to always doing it this way. And I think that was a perfect comment of how many business owners will just do things because it's how they've always done it. In the hospital, they still at that time were printing stuff out. in her department. So it's like, oh, it makes sense why you're printing things out, when in reality, we can bring you into a software system where you can electronically sign and then your client gets a copy of this agreement. And so that phrase of like, I don't know, this is just like how we've always done it. I think whenever there is, and this is where I think AI can't really help. I'd be interested to hear if you feel differently, is being able to spot those times where you could do things differently. Like sometimes I think people don't know what their problem is or that they're the bottleneck of their business, be it their beliefs or the way that they're doing something, because they don't really see it being a problem until eventually they have a second set of eyes on it and the person's able to be like, do you know that you don't have to that you don't have to print that legal document out all the time? Like you can actually send it electronically. Or I'm trying to think of what's an example that you have run into with like maybe a client of yours, like they've always done it this way, but then it wasn't until you pointed it out to them that they were like, oh, I guess I could totally do it differently.
I mean, it's all on the automation. It's like being able to pull different contracts, or a roofer who like has, a weather has to do certain projects at certain times of the weather. Like we could definitely automate that. Like I can, build a bot that's going to go in and pull those things. And so you can actually schedule those on days for that week that actually makes sense for, the sealant to go on the roof at that time.
Yeah, then that way you don't have to
Yeah.
remember everything off the top of your head. And I think that's the other thing I've seen is like clients have been like, I have such an issue with time management. And then they get ready to go on vacation and they realize they forgot to send a couple of things out. And it's like, oh, well, an easy fix to that is like, let's put it in your calendar, or let's have the software system put it in your calendar when the date when the date of whatever is due or when that email needs to go out. And then that way, as you're jumping on the plane to go to Italy, we don't have to deal with this. You've already sent it 2 weeks ago. You already got the answer. And now they know you're on vacation. And she was like, oh my God, I didn't even think that. And sometimes it does take that human interaction to say, do you know that automations or AI is capable of doing this? But I think sometimes the bottleneck is that we don't even know what our issue is until somebody points it out.
Yeah. And that's what I love about like jumping into strategy sessions with people, because I'm able to give kind of a high level view of, okay, where can we put in these automations so that like you didn't know that you could send a text message that has a merge field that's going to actually use a link to the document that you need them to sign to remind them. And you don't have to do that step anymore. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to put it on your calendar. It's just automatically going to happen. When X happens, Y will happen. Always, no matter what. So building out that kind of strategy at a high level, I think is so important. So I love that you're incorporating that into your coaching to really take and lift that weight on and that time, give people back time. That's what excites me the most about AI automation is we're giving people time back. And time is something that you can't buy it. We only have a certain amount of time and we have to use it wisely. And why would I want to spend time following up with text message and emails when I could spend that time hanging out with my kids?
Yeah. So that reminds me too, they had they were manually, these NICU nurses were manually scheduling meetings with their clients. And I was like, there's Calendly, like you could easily go in and that it will text them a reminder to let them know that you're coming to their house tomorrow at 2. And they're like, oh my God, this is genius. Like, again, how did we not know this? And I'm like, but how would you? You're like, whenever you're hanging out with your friends, do you text them and say, here, use my calendar link to schedule a time for me to come over to your house? No. So like, of course you're sending them a text back and being like, I'm free Tuesday at 2. Like, I'm like, it makes sense why you're doing that. It's just, you don't have to do that anymore. And they're like, okay.
I actually did though have a friend, we were booking facials and she was like, just use my calendar link to find a time that we can go together. Like, okay. I guess it depends on the friend.
I was going to say, I feel like that definitely, once Calendly got as popular as it did, I think a lot of us were like, please we would just send each other our Calendly link. We were like, here you go.
Just do this.
Tell me you're a business owner without telling me you're a business owner.
Oh, it's so great. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about just the human side for a minute. Like, tell me a story about a client that tells you their life actually feels different after working with you, not just their business. And what does that look like?
Yeah. So I had a client who came to me week 1 and she said, "Do you have a recommendation for a couples therapist?" And I said, "Why? What's going on?" I said, "You're in good hands," because I used to be a relationship coach. I said, "But I have a feeling that based off what we work on with you and me personally, it's going to impact your relationship in a positive way. So I don't even know that you'll need one, but tell me what's going on." She's like, "We're just like not on the same page. Like, we're not communicating well. Like, I'm over here like trying to figure out how I'm going to buy this business," because she's in a business right now where she's going to buy it. And I'm trying to understand the finances and I'm trying to like lead my team. And then on top of it at home, I have no concept into our finances and like understanding what we're doing. And I'm trying to talk to him and like tell him I want to know. And he's like, "What, you don't trust me?" And like, she's like, "This is just like backfiring." And she's like, "And we're not doing date nights and like, we're just not connected at all." And so by week 7, I have them like fill out this form periodically. And she was like, "I can't even believe that I asked you if we need a relationship like therapist and a recommendation for a couples therapist," because she's like, "First of all, like we're so connected. We are like on the same page. We're getting along really well." And I think what the biggest difference was I was telling her, I'm like, "The way you're communicating to him is actually coming across like you don't trust him, but it's just because of the words you're using. And also, are you actually saying it to him face to face or are you saying it to him over text?" And she was like, "Oh, fuck." And I'm like, "Yeah, are you texting him like while he's at work? Because you're not going to get the best response from your husband if you've got a question, or wife for that matter. But if you've got a question and they're in the middle of work that can literally wait until later." As like, if you can understand the polarity between masculine and feminine energy and how when a man is healthy and in his purpose, he is going to be dedicated to that job and that thing and he's single-mindedly focused there. But if you come in like, "Oh my God, I want to take the kids to school and then we should go to water country and then we should do that," and like you're all over the place, which is the beautiful art of being feminine, there's going to be a conflict, but that's also why he loves you, right? So it's like part of the reason. So I said to her, I was like, "I think what you could be really mindful of is let's wait and have this conversation when he gets home." Right. So one of the things we did was going into it, I prepped her. I was like, "Okay, if I were you, I would say something like this. When the kids go to bed, like when he comes in from work today, I'd be like, hey, just pull him aside, hand on the back, be like, question for you. Tonight, when the kids go to bed, I wanted to get your perspective on something that happened at work today. And I was wondering if maybe we could just like head out on the deck and like have a talk about it. I just want to get your thoughts." And she was like, "Okay, this sounds good already." I'm like, "Yeah, do you notice that I'm not like, hey, we need to talk later?" Because that doesn't work well, right? I said, "But what I think you could do is just like," and I said, "Did you notice I said hand on the back or like hand on him?" I was like, "The reason I'm suggesting that is it softens the whole dynamic. You're not coming to him being like, like he's in trouble. Like you're coming to him because you actually want to tell him vulnerably what's happening at work and how it's impacting your marriage." And she was like, "Okay." And I said, "And then what I would do is once you guys get the kids to bed and you're outside, is just to say, so as you know, I'm buying this business and I'm feeling really vulnerable. I feel like I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, which is why I hired this coach to help me like learn how to run the business. She's helping me figure out the finances, which is making me realize that I don't know the finances at home. So it doesn't make me feel like I can be that much more smarter within the organization and within the company. So would you be up for walking me through our finances? What are the account numbers? Where do the passwords live? Where are our investment accounts? Why do we invest this much versus that much? How much do we pay in mortgage?" Like going through all that, because he's going to have a methodology for why he has done certain things. And then you can also say, it's also will just help me feel more confident when I get to work. I said, "Do you realize that you just addressed the whole like situation without addressing the situation?" She was like, as soon as I said it to him, by the way, she felt very apprehensive going in. But after the conversation, she texted me and she was like, he was like, we were like so attracted to each other afterwards. We just felt like so connected. He was so willing. He was like, "Do you want me to pull up the stuff now?" And she was like, "No, I just want to put it out there. Like when we could maybe next week." And she was like, so we set a date and then we ended up on that money date. We ended up scheduling another date so we could just go out and enjoy each other's company. And she was like, "I just feel like not only are you teaching me how to lead better within my organization, but also within my marriage." And like, she's like, "I didn't play submissive. I didn't play dominant either. I just played like vulnerable. Like I just came as my full true self." And she's like, and he responded so well. And I find that I like keep doing things like that with him and it's working. And I'm like, yeah, it's softening a little bit. And for women, I think we're so used to like having to be harder because all of us in our 40s and 30s, we were raised in that environment of like we were the generation that went to work, when our mothers had the chance to go, but they still were in admin tasks or admin roles. And we came in and we're having management roles and things like that. And it's a different mindset. But that's kind of what comes to mind is like one of my stories recently, that to see her change in 7 weeks and feel more connected to her husband and herself, which felt amazing. No playing games, being really honest, just changing her approach a little.
Very cool. That's a great story.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right. So before we close out, we're going to do what's called a lightning round. So it'll be quick questions, pretty easy, quick, short answers, and then we'll close out. So what is one myth about building a business that you would like to eliminate completely if you could?
Say it one more time. One myth.
What is one myth about building a business that you would eliminate completely if you could?
That you have to make money.
What is a habit or mindset shift that has done the most for your growth?
Believing that I can have anything that I want. Believing that I can have more money without it being selfish or greedy. Just believing that I can have more just based off the belief itself.
That's a great shift. What gives you the most hope about where things are headed for entrepreneurs?
How many of this there are? Holy shit.
So many.
There's so many. That's actually what I'm like most excited about.
Yeah.
I think people would say the opposite. They might be like, well, there's so many, like, how am I going to succeed? It's like, no, like, because there's so many of us, I think this is all the more reason why we will.
Yeah, very cool. And then the last one's super easy. Where can listeners find you and learn more about your work?
Yeah, so 3 places. Number 1 is Instagram, kg.katiegrimes, KATIEGRIMES. You can head over to my website, www.katiegrimes.com. And then the podcast is on Spotify and it's on Apple, which is Anything for Love.
Awesome. Well, Katie, I really thank you for all of the honesty and clarity that you brought to this conversation. I really enjoyed our talk, and it's great to hear a fresh perspective. And I actually learned a lot. So thank you for providing that today. So to our listeners, if you'd like to hear more conversations with founders and business owners building smarter, more sustainable companies, make sure to like and subscribe the CEO Spotlight podcast. And as always, innovation creates possibility, implementation turns it into growth. We'll see you next time.